Good morning. It's Craig Bennett, aka Cash Keg, here for DFS Army. I'm going to give you a first look of tonight's 8-game NBA slate since we have one game that's canceled. COVID's running rampant around the association. But yeah, first look. Then I'll do a live Q&A closer to 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. I'll shoot the link out in DFS Army. And just answering questions on the slate because things change throughout the day. But let's just do a first look on this and see what we got for FanDuel and DraftKings. So we'll look at both FanDuel and DraftKings pricing here, and we'll just go, game by game. Like I said, there's only 8 games on this slate. I think it was the Chicago game that got canceled. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and that's what we got to work with. So let's look at this first game here. Dallas at Charlotte, the 220 over under, with Dallas favored by 4. The big news here is going to be we have Porzingis is actually probable for this game. That's the big news. He's 8K. I don't think he's going to play more than 24 to 26 minutes on this first game back. And at 8K, I just can't pay it. The usage rate is going to go way down here for playing a guy like Luka 11-3. I still think he's extremely viable here. But Porzingis is going to eat into that usage a little bit. So it's not someone that I can say, okay, smash play. We want to play a ton of Luka here, 11-3. But still, the usage is definitely going to be there. It's been around 36% this season, which is fantastic. But again, Porzingis is going to eat into that a little bit. So again, on the Dallas side, it's basically Porzingis for me, and that's about it. Porzingis is going to eat into it. Hardaway at 6.8 over here on FanDuel is not a great price. It's way too high with Porzingis back. Cauley Stein at 5K. Trey Burke at 4,500. It's just on a game this size. I just don't see the need to play any of these guys outside of Luka. So for me on FanDuel, it's pretty easy. Luka's about the only guy I'd make the pool, and that's about it. Over here on the Charlotte side, we got a couple guys we can look at here. They've been an interesting team. Close spread. Hayward's been putting up monster points, man. He's a guy that I think we can, look at in about every format. 7-8 here on FanDuel. Playing heavy minutes. The usage has been about 25%. They've been all around, they don't have anyone over 30% usage for the season. So it's not like, one guy is doing everything. So, 42 points against New York. Atlanta put up 19, 40 against the Pelicans, and 60 against Atlanta. So I don't think it's the best matchup to target him at 7-8 over here on FanDuel. But again, LaMelo Ball, man, if you haven't been on this train the last week or so, you're missing out. Now, he doesn't start. He comes off the bench, but he does play a lot of minutes. He'll give you around 30 minutes. But look at these fantasy points. He's just like his brother, Lonzo, but, he just seems way more engaged. I think he's way more talented than Lonzo. But just look at these stats. He does it all, just like his brother, he got his first triple-double a couple times against Atlanta, but we're talking 46 FanDuel points, 54, 37, 29, 37. So again, at 7-4, if I'm going to target one guy heavily here on the Charlotte side, it would definitely be LaMelo Ball here because of everything he does. And especially on FanDuel, because he does a little bit of everything, those blocks and assists, or blocks and steals count for 3. They can really add up. So again, until he's in that 8K range, I think he's going to be playable. Terry Rozier at 6.7, PJ Washington at 6.5, Graham at 6K. I can't get super excited about all these guys. Like Rozier, like 6,700. He put up a 39 and 38 against Atlanta and New Orleans. I just can't get super excited about that. So on here on FanDuel, I'm basically just going to look at Ball on this side and Luka on the other side. If we come over here to DraftKings and look at pricing a little bit, Luka's down to 10.8. Again, Porzingis 8.4. You just can't pay that. So he's just an X out of my pool until we can start seeing minutes out of him. Because at 8K, he's not going to put up, the 50 that you need and the 24 to 26 minutes he's going to get. Again, so Luka's here. LaMelo Ball, 72. That's close to the highest I think we've ever seen him. But again, he was 7K last game. But again, he's got to be in your player pool. 44, 61, 40 his last three. He's a guy I'm going to target here. So on a slate this size, I'm not going to look too heavily in most of these guys. What's kind of crazy is LaMelo Ball actually leads the team in usage at 25%, even playing an average of 25 minutes for the season. But again, he's averaging around 30 minutes the last three games, and I think that's only going to uptick, with his upside. So let's move on to the next game here. Milwaukee at Detroit. We have a 227 over under. Milwaukee favored by 10.5, and looks like Bobby Portis is probable and Derrick Rose is probable. So both those guys play. We'll start over here on DraftKings this time. Giannis at 10-6. Man, it's just hard to play Giannis, man. At 10-6, I would rather just play Luka. Look at these, points, like the minutes that he's playing. And again, if you look at these, a lot of these have been double-digit wins or losses. But 40, 53, 40, 61, he's just not getting it done for this price point to pay off. And if they're 10-point favorites and for some reason they blow out Detroit, then it's Bobby Portis, if he's going to play, that's going to get more of the run. And he's been absolutely have super high ceiling games. At Cleveland there, put 33 minutes, put up a 42 burger. He's been like this his whole career with Chicago and New York, and anywhere he's been a point per minute monster. Again, against Detroit here, put up 28 minutes. So on the 6th, put up 28 minutes, put up 40 burger at 5,400. He's a guy you have to love at that price point. And I would rather play him over Giannis, honestly. If we're looking at point per dollar and where we're going to land on things, Portis is probably one of my favorite plays in this game, especially that is probable. Great price on Drew Holiday here on DraftKings at 6.9. Jeremy Grant 7.9. Holy, the guy's been doing a lot. But 7.9 is really hard to stomach. But if you look at these fantasy points, 44, 52, 47, 42, they're close to what Giannis has been putting up the last 4 games. So on DraftKings, it's a little bit expensive to swallow that. But, if there's a 50 burger in there and at 7.9, we talked about Porzingis being around the same price. I'd rather play Jeremy Grant because he's going to be getting, the mid to high 30s in minutes. And the usage has been about 25% for the season for him. And again, it's crazy. You'd think that he's over, Blake Griffin price wise, if you said that at the beginning of the season. So, Chris Middleton priced up at 8.2. Again, hard to like that price tag when they're all fully healthy. 40, 46, 51, 41. Again, put up great numbers, put up 41 burger against Detroit here just 4 games ago. So, it's a Giannis fade for me on the slate. And I would look at these guys like Middleton, Grant, Holiday, and Portis being my favorite play here over on DraftKings. Head over to FanDuel and look at this game and see what pricing we have. Again, Giannis 11K. I'm just going to fade it. Again, he's just not getting it done. I mean, the 2 games against Detroit, he put up a 60 burger in 36 minutes. And then 28 minutes, he put up 38. So, he can get there, but I just think on a slate this size, he can definitely be in your pool. But it's just when they're all healthy, when Drew Holiday's there and Middleton and Giannis is like, I just have a hard time. If they get up, they're just going to let Portis run here. Drew Holiday 7.6 over here on FanDuel. Jeremy Grant, again, 8.3, but he's been super consistent. So, I don't mind looking there, but again, that's super expensive for him. So it's towards his ceiling. Middleton 7.4. Way better price over here on FanDuel for Chris Middleton, so I really like this price tag on him. I think he's been a little bit more consistent than Drew Holiday, so I would lean here for my bucks for the 3 guys that are the studs on this team. And then come down here to Bobby Portis. Power forward, I love this. I love that he's not a center and takes up that center position. At 5'9", again, we talked about it. He's got 40 point upside, and he's probable tonight. Again, the 2 games against Detroit. Again, the first one, if Giannis put up a 60 burger, Bobby Portis put up 21. Then when Giannis only put up 39, Bobby Portis put up 39. So if I was going to make a rule here, Portis needs to get a little bit more run to hit that ceiling. That's where I would make a rule, say, okay, if I'm going to play Giannis, I'm not going to play Bobby Portis. That way, those guys, if you're going to adjust the projection to say for a Bobby Portis ceiling game of towards 40, both those guys are not going to hit your lineup. So that is a rule I would definitely make. on both sides, honestly. I wouldn't want them in the same game. I think it's a little more viable on DraftKings, but again, I don't think it'd be a winning lineup for both of them to be in there. So that is a rule I would make. Derrick Rose at 5,700. Again, I think that's a fair price for him. With him probably being back, it's just Derrick Rose is just so hard because the minutes aren't there. He's out last game to Utah, but we're looking 19, 11, 24. That first game that it was competitive against Detroit, he did put up 41 fantasy points. So if you think he's going to get that minutes again at 5,700, he is viable in this slate. But again, how much are they going to run him? If they get behind, like they did that second game, only, saw 11 minutes, 12 fantasy points, and that ain't going to get done at 5,700. So he's more of like a large field GPP play to me here. And again, all these other guys, it's hard to get super excited about here. Maybe you want to look at a Plumlee, but again, he's priced up at 5,900. So it's real tough. I think it's just Bobby Portis for me is my favorite play, and then just kind of move on. Let's head to the next game here. We got Brooklyn at New York. 218.5 over under. Brooklyn favored by 5.5. Kyrie Irving. I don't know what to say about the man. The guy is a little bit out there. Okay, he's a lot out there. So he's going to be out for, I think, at least 3 more games, and who knows what's going to happen to him in the league. It's just same deal Boston and same deal Cleveland. It's just the guy needs to be out of the league personally. But hey, Kevin Durant, they're on a back-to-back. They played last night, back-to-back. Kevin Durant, 10-1 against the Knicks here. He's probable. Tyler Johnson's questionable here. Reggie Bullock is doubtful in this game. Durant, I have no problem going back at 10-1 against the Knicks here. They're favored by 5.5. Put up a monster game against Denver last night, 35 minutes, put up 57 fantasy points. He's going to be, a 40, 45-point floor in any game he's on with no Kyrie Irving. He's just the scoring here. And I don't see anyone on New York that's going to be able to guard him. If it's RJ Barrett or Randall, whoever's tried to guard him, he's just going to torch him. So love me some Durant here at 10-1. Randall at 9-1 is pretty expensive. He's up here on FanDuel pricing. He's shown that the last, couple games. But, Tibbs is the coach, man. He's going to play heavy minutes. Didn't look too good in that Charlotte game, put up 23, but in Denver, 38 minutes, 45, 39 minutes against Utah, 54, 43 against Atlanta, 57. So he's a guy you have to consider, and at 9-1, there's still meat left on the bone there to get you a 6X where he can get you 50, 55. So definitely someone I'm definitely looking at playing over here on FanDuel, no problem. Karis LeVert, 8K. Again, is expensive. But like they did last night, they brought him off the bench. They didn't start him, which I think is a good thing because you want one of Durant or LeVert. And so what they're doing is they're bringing him, what they did last night is bring him off the bench, but then he closed out the second half and the fourth quarter. And I think that's what we're going to get a lot of, and that's not going to change so much. So no problem with LeVert there. Jared Allen at 7-2. Again, not a bad price tag. He's 6'7" over at DraftKings. He's starting and playing pretty decent minutes. I'm not really worried about, going up against Mitchell Robinson too much. I think there's a ceiling there, but your floor is not going to be as high as some of these other guys. So, again, I'm not super excited to play him, but I think he is in play. RJ Barrett, 6'3", another guy you can kind of look at. But, he's going to be playing extremely high minutes. Way better price tag on FanDuel at 6'3". On DraftKings, he is 7-1. So it's a little harder to swallow that. In the last couple games, only 28-22, but he's got 37 and a 52 burger in there in the last 5 games. Going up against Brooklyn, if it's going to be an up and down game, I don't mind him. The usage is not massive, about 22% all year. For this team, the usage has been going through basically Julius Randle. He's around 28% usage for the season. But again, Tibbs plays these guys heavy minutes. So if I'm looking at the top three guys here, it's basically just Durant, Randle, and LeVert. And there's nobody real cheap that I love down here that you can take a chance on. Maybe Austin Rivers at 4-5. He's 5,300 over on DraftKings. Maybe there's some meat left on the bone there. Played 37 minutes against Charlotte, put up 19. 27 against OKC in 32 minutes. So I do think that there's, you know, possibilities that he can hit a ceiling, but again, just an MME play. I wouldn't play him in cash games. And if we look at Mitchell Robinson, 6K, again, bigs against Brooklyn's still going to be a thing. I don't mind taking a shot at him at 6K because he does have 40-point upside, and if he does give you mid-30s minutes, gets a few blocks and steals, those add up over here on FanDuel, where he's 5'8" on DraftKings. Kind of prefer him on FanDuel. Even though the price is very similar, 6K on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. A guy I guess you can consider for cash, but man, it's just hard to trust him. But he is a better price than paying up that for Jared Allen, and has been pretty consistent with those minutes with Tibbs at the helm. So let's move on to the next game. We got the Lakers at OKC. I don't think I have a total for this game yet. So no total for this game. LeBron James and AD, they seem to be questionable every game, but they play every game. They played last night. Both teams are on a back-to-back. They both played last night. AD and LeBron James will be questionable again. And who knows, maybe one of them will sit out here, and maybe that's why there's no line. So if one of those sits out, if AD sat out, then I want a bunch of LeBron James and a bunch of Dennis Schroeder. And then I want to come down here. Kyle Kuzma at 3,900. If AD set out, would be a core play. I would just lock him in at that price. Again, I'm just speculating here, but being on a back-to-back, maybe one of these guys sits with no line, and that's why Vegas is waiting on it. So keep that in mind when you're going throughout the day, and that's why this is just a first look, because things will change so much. And again, 3,900 on FanDuel. If we look on DraftKings, Kyle Kuzma is sitting at, where is he at? He is 5,600 on FanDuel. So, I'm sorry, on DraftKings. So on FanDuel, I almost lock him in if AD was out. On DraftKings, I still think he's in play because he would play, maybe low 30 minutes and he can still get there. But on FanDuel, it'd just be a lock play. LeBron James, I think it would be AD more to sit out than LeBron. LeBron's just been playing, consistently here. So, again, at 9-9 for LeBron, if AD was out, I would just shove him in my lineups. Same thing, Dennis Schroeder, he would play a little bit more on the ball at 5,900. Harrell at 5,800. On DraftKings, Schroeder 6,100. Harrell's 5,600. Both great price tags. But again, if the whole team is intact, I don't want any of them. I just don't want any of them. But if AD were to sit out, I'm going to have a couple Lakers in my cash teams, and probably, like I said, on FanDuel, that's just a stupid price for Kuzma if we did get AD out. So all this is going to depend on news. Again, if you're not part of DFS Army, head on over there, sign up, use promo code CashCake, save yourself 10%. We will have cheat sheets out with the core write-ups on how we feel like the slate's going to go, both in cash and GPPs, and a player pool where I'll put rank my top plays on DraftKings and FanDuel, and give out my MME percentages where I feel like I want to be above and below the field to leverage it. So with that, let's go on the other side of the ball on OKC. SGA 8,800. Man, that is hard to swallow. He's 7,700 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, man. He does have some big games, and maybe you can think about playing him if one of these guys was out. If the whole Lakers team was intact, I don't want any part of this team at all. But again, last night, San Antonio only put up 31. But before that, against Brooklyn, 55, 47, 53. We just have to know he's got an extremely low floor with how volatile he is. But he does have a 50-point upside. But I still think he's priced towards the ceiling, and a guy I have no problem fading. Darius Bazley, I don't want him unless AD is out. If AD was out, he's 6'4" on FanDuel, 5'9" on DraftKings. He's playing in the low 30 minutes, and there's, he's got upside, 38, 35, 39. We're talking 4, 5, 6 games ago. But AD would have to sit, because if he's going up against AD will just absolutely rail him here. Al Horford at 5,500. have a hard time playing him again on a slate this big. Not too excited. George Hill, 4,500, I guess makes a little bit of sense. He's 4,500 on DraftKings as well. Excuse me. He's somebody I guess you could look at. Put up 23.5 points the last 2 games, putting up 28 minutes. So at that price, it isn't too bad, but no one I'm extremely excited about playing. And then really on an 8-game slate, I'm not going to be dumpster diving too much, especially if we get 80 out and I can just throw in Kuzma there. So not a whole lot to love there, but again, it's all going to come down to, is 80 going to play or not? Let's move on to the next game, Memphis at Minnesota. This game is sitting at a 220 over under with Memphis favored by 2.5. Injury news: Conker looks like he's questionable. Okogie is questionable, and Karl Anthony Towns is questionable. Karl Anthony Towns, if he does play, I think he's interesting, but a guy that I don't think on this slate I would be super excited about playing. He's 9-8 on DraftKings, 10-5 on FanDuel. There's just other spend ups I'd rather go at here. The usage around 27% for the season, only averaging 32 minutes, which, again, there's other guys like Randall and guys that are averaging the high. Durant, these guys I'd much rather play than Cat. So I kind of hope Cat plays and then people get on him. I just can't get too excited about it. I'd rather play Jovile on the other side. 6,900 on FanDuel, 6,900 on DraftKings. Better price on FanDuel. Again, he's another minutes guy that doesn't play a ton of minutes, averaging around 27 minutes for the season. 22% usage rate. We haven't seen a ceiling game out of him in a long time. I think, with Ja Morant out, it's just kind of hurting him. 24, 20, even a good matchup against Brooklyn where put up and only played 13 minutes a game, 20 fantasy points. Cleveland put up 37. Again, that's only going to get you around 5x. So, it's hard to love that. D'Angelo Russell, 7,500 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DraftKings. He's had a few monster games. 4 games ago against Denver, 37 minutes, put up 56. But I think this is another one where I would make a rule between if I was going to play D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley at 5,800. It's hard because there's nobody that just absolutely stands out. Brandon Clark is interesting at 5,600. Beasley at 5,800. Both these guys got some ceiling potential. Put up 34 fantasy points against this, San Antonio in 40 minutes. So he's playing heavy minutes, and there is meat left on the bone there. Like I said, he is 5,800 on FanDuel, and he's 6,700 on DraftKings. So DraftKings, he's priced out for me. On FanDuel, he's not at 5,800. DraftKings, that's pretty expensive. You're gonna have to read a massive floor there or ceiling there. Brandon Clark, though, is interesting. 5,800 on DraftKings, 5,600 on FanDuel against Minnesota. Put up 22 against Cleveland, but against Brooklyn, put up 46. So there's upside there at that price tag. If he gets you 30, you're pretty happy. So he's somebody that I would kind of look at in this position. And not a game where we got a lot of great prices here. Kyle Anderson at 5,400, Rubio at 5,300. If a lot of these guys are playing, they just kind of cannibalize each other's upside. Russell leads Minnesota in usage again, so he would be the one I think I would lean on the most. Him, Beasley, and Clark in this game, I think I'd look at the most. Dylan Brooks, I guess, at 6,300 is interesting because he does have an upside. He's 6,600 on DraftKings. The usage is not massive. He's sitting around 28% usage. But for me with him, he's got upside. Put up 40 against Cleveland last game. There's chances for 40 to 50 fantasy points out of him, but his floor is extremely low, and you could never play a guy like that in cash. So again, I wouldn't go towards the top here. It's a game where I wouldn't play a ton of these guys, even though that we have a decent over-under. There's just better options I think that we can look at on this slate. But these mid-range guys are all worth it. Again, I wouldn't play Russell and Beasley in the same lineup because I don't think that they hit their ceilings together. Let's move on to Atlanta and Phoenix. This game is sitting at what do we got here? 227.5 over-under with Phoenix favored by 5. Now, this game, let's see injury-wise that we have here. Um, Looks like Rondo is questionable. Capella is questionable. Cameron Payne is doubtful. I want to reach back and talk about the OKC game real quick because I did miss this injury news. Al Horford is doubtful. So if Al Horford were to sit, Muscala could come into play here at really cheap. So I just wanted to mention that. I did miss that injury news on them real quick. So if Horford were to sit and AD were to sit, I would love Bazley even more. So Bazley and Muscala. And, if they did something crazy like moved Roby into the starting lineup with that AD, he can get it going. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But we got you covered over here when we get to the live stream that I'll do later in the day. But again, let's just go back and circle back to Atlanta and Phoenix here. Again, Rondo's questionable. Capella is questionable. And Cameron Payne is doubtful. So, Rondo hasn't played in a long time, so that's no big deal. But Capella's interesting, because if he sits, he's 6,400 on FanDuel here, and he is, where's Capella at? He's 6,800 on DraftKings. So he's priced up a little bit on DraftKings. So if he does sit, I think it helps John Collins the most here, because Capella grabs a lot of those rebounds, and it excuse me, takes away a lot of his upside. So John Collins is 7,200 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings at 7K. I think he'd be a great play if we got Capella out, if he were to sit here, because I think that really hurts John Collins' upside. DeAndre Ayton here at 6,700. He's 7K on DraftKings. I think he's a fine play here, especially if Capella said as well. Kind of rough, 17-29 the last two games, but didn't put up 36, 38 against the Clippers. So not someone that I would try to smash in your lineups, but if we don't get great value out of some of these positions, maybe we'll have to look here. But just someone that you can kind of look at. Chris Paul 7,100 again is way too cheap. Probably the best play on the slate on this game. Trae Young 8,800 on FanDuel and 8,900 on DraftKings. Man, it's just at that price. My big thing is the turnovers. Yeah, against Philly, he had none, put up 44 fantasy points in 25 minutes, but Philly was shorthanded that game. But these other games, he's putting high minutes in, 37, 35, 39, 27, 13, 50 fantasy points. I want more than 50 for a guy that's 8,800. I would much rather play Chris Paul at 7,100 FanDuel and 7,200 DraftKings. The big thing on FanDuel that screws Trae Young is he doesn't take care of the ball. Against Charlotte, 5 turnovers. And then the game before that against Charlotte, 7. New York, 8. Cleveland, 6. You get -1 for every one of those. So it's really hard to have a ceiling game when you can't take care of the ball. So, that's the problem with him. Again, Chris Paul, 7,100. Favorite play of this, 38, 31, 30, 34, 38, 37. Super consistent over his last 6. I would plug him probably in cash games to start with here on FanDuel. And DraftKings is 7,200. Same kind of thing. Averaging around 32 minutes a game, usage around 21%, but he does a little bit of everything. He's the floor general there, man. And I would much rather play him over a Trae Young. If we come down here and, Reddish, if he gets in that starting lineup again, I like playing some Reddish at 4,500. He's 5K on DraftKings, a little more expensive. But again, if he plays in the low to mid 30s, we've seen some ceiling games at him. Against Charlotte, put up 37 fantasy points. Philly only 19, but again, they smashed him. He didn't have to play there. So he could be an interesting piece here that we might look at. If I'm looking down in this range, maybe Jay Crowder at 4,400. He's 4,900 on DraftKings, plays in the low 30 minutes. The usage is never there. But he's a guy, going up against Atlanta, I love targeting guys here. We skipped over Booker at 7,800, but I'd just rather have Chris Paul. At 7,800 here on FanDuel. How much is he? He's 8,300 on DraftKings. He's so scoring dependent. If you look at him, it's really all he does. The rebounds and assists aren't there. 41, 45, 31, 33. At 7,800, there's still meat left on the bone there. And it's a great matchup against Atlanta. And again, I would rather play him than Trae Young, honestly. But I wish he would do more than just score. No assists, 3 rebounds last game against Washington. And Indy did a little bit better, 7 assists, 3 rebounds. But then before that against Detroit, 3 assists, 0 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 rebound. So at that price, more of a Chris Paul's more of your cash play, and Booker's more of your tournament guy. But again, down here, it's probably Crowder and Reddish are the guys I'm looking at to see what's going on. And again, if we get that Capella's out, it does make me like Collins a little bit more, someone that I would definitely look at a little bit more. So we just got to keep that in mind. And again, we'll hit that on the live feed. So let's move on to the next game where we got the Pelicans at the Clippers, 220.5 over under. Clippers favored by 6.5. Injury news on this game: JJ Redick is probable. Maybe he went and worked on his shooting form because he has been a hot pile of garbage shooting the ball this year. But that's never here nor there. Bledsoe is questionable and Zubac is questionable. That's a big one for this game. If we get Bledsoe to sit. If Bledsoe plays, Bledsoe's 5,300 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. He's been playing heavy minutes here. 33, 25, 34, 31. Put up 22, 25, 28, 46, 25. Pretty consistent the last 5 games. And at 5,300 and 5,800, if he played, he'd be one of the better values on the slate. So he is a guy that we can look at. Definitely going up against the Clippers here. So, if he sits, we're going to have some value open up for the guard position because we got no Lonzo Ball here. And we could look at guys like, for tournaments as well, and might even be a cash play. We got Alexander Walker, 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,100 at DraftKings. He probably played a little bit more. 2 games ago against OKC, played 26 minutes, put up 25 fantasy points. So there is upside for a play like this. He's about a fantasy point per minute when he's out there. So he might be a piece of value that we see if Bledsoe is out. This game does start at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we might not know this news. So it might be a situation where you want to backload some of your lineups where you can make some pivots if Bledsoe's in or out, because I probably want to play him, and I hate saying that, but at that price, he does open things up. And if he's not, the good thing is Bledsoe on FanDuel is a shooting guard, and so is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So, but you're going to need another piece to kind of move that around for some salary. Now, if Bledsoe were to sit, we're going to get, Ingram at 8,800 and Zion at 7,700. Ingram's 8,500 on DraftKings, Zion's 7,300 on DraftKings. And this is where the usage is at. Ingram's leading the team at almost 30% usage clip here, 35 minutes a game. If they're going to keep this game close, where Vegas kind of thinks it's going to be kind of close, it's going to be on Ingram here. You would think the Claw would try to slow him down. So if we get Kawhi on Ingram, then maybe this is going to be Zion, because they don't have anyone that can control Zion down at the on the paint. So I do worry about Ingram a little bit if Kawhi is going to be guarding him. But Ingram's been so good this year. But again, Zion, 37, 44, 42, 30. They don't have anyone that can guard him. So I would think I would rather go Zion than Ingram here. And again, 7,700 on FanDuel, 7,300 on DraftKings is definitely a price you can look at. But again, the big news is going to be Bledsoe in this game. So we really have to get a feel if he's going to play or not. Josh Hart hurts a little bit with JJ Redick back. I can't really look at anything there. Like I said, if Zubac ends up sitting, they're not going to have any beef in the Pelicans with Steven Adams, and going up with Zion. I mean, Serge Ibaka is not going to be able to control those guys. It's they're just too much beef. And Serge Ibaka is 6K on DraftKings, 5,600 on FanDuel. I think I would like him a little bit more if we get Zubac out, because there is upside. He put 32 and 33 against Golden State. I think that there's a little bit of upside there if we do get Zubac out. But we have to wait on that. And then on the other, the 2 stars for the Clippers, we know Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, 9,200 and 9K. Again, this is another rule. I wouldn't play both of them in the same lineup. Kawhi's changed his tune a little bit. I read a few things that he's, not seeing NBA basketball as a hobby anymore and being more serious about it. That's kind of scary considering how good he's been and what he's done in the league so far. So if he's going to get to that point and stop using load management, we can get there. 50 against Chicago. Look at some of these minutes. 38, 34, 34, 37. He's played a back-to-back, which is crazy. 3 and 4 days ago, and he put up 37 and 34 minutes. So at 9K, I think Kawhi's the guy I want to look at. Paul George at 9K, put up 59, 39, 39, putting up heavy minutes as well. I still don't think both hit ceiling games here at the same time at that price. Again, over in DraftKings, Paul George is 9.3. Kawhi Leonard's 9.7. And this is where I'm talking about, like people always ask me, well, last night you had 4 guys or 3 or 4 guys of Miami in your core. Well, they were all like min priced, man. So it's all about point per dollar. Don't guys like this when they're priced towards their ceiling, very rarely are both going to hit 60 burgers or whatever they need to be in the optimal lineup together. So if you adjust the projections to be towards the ceiling, then you need to adjust how you're putting these guys in your lineup. So, again, Paul George, 28% usage rate. His minutes are there. We all know that they get it done. Batum could be interesting as well. They might need his size here. 5,300 on DraftKings. He's down here, 5,300 on FanDuel. Someone that's very interesting to play in this slate as well. And Lou Will, 4,400. It's just he doesn't get the minutes, man. It's tough to play Lou Will. 4,600 on DraftKings. But there is a ceiling, Like, look, 23 minutes. That's the most minutes he's played in the last 6 games. But against Chicago, put up 36 fantasy points. Can't ever play this guy in cash, but we all know Lou Will, if his shot is falling or if George is hurt or not hurt, but maybe George getting foul trouble or something like that, or one of these guys where they just are off that night and they need scoring. He's instant offense. He can come in there and put up a 30 burger at 4,400, and he might be in that optimal. So you always got to have a little bit of Lou Will, especially at that price where there is upside. But that's where I kind of look at it. Again, Bledsoe's going to be the big news here. We have to wait for that. And again, this game starting 3 hours after lock. You're going to backload a lot of these games and kind of figure out what we're going to do later. So you might need a couple pieces to move around and have a game plan if you're cash games or your GPPs. But let's move on here to the next game where we have Portland at Sacramento. 235.5 over under. This point's about 8 points higher than any other over under that we have. Portland favored by 4.5. So Vegas thinks this is going to be close. The injury news we have here: Damian Lillard is probable. Nurkic is questionable. Buddy Hield is probable, and Rashawn Holmes is probable. You're probably going to want a piece of this game. I'm sure it'll be up and down. The big thing, if Nurkic is out, then I'm going to want me some Canner at 5,300. If we're going over here and 5,300 on FanDuel, 4,800 on DraftKings, his minutes would get up, a ton. And even the minutes that he is playing, 15, 19, 13, 15, he's put up 24, 28, 30, 16. And if this guy would get 25 minutes or something, or 27, if Nurkic were to sit, 24 minutes against Golden State, he put up 40. 25 against the Clippers, put up 21. 22 against the Lakers, 31. This guy's got massive upside. So this is another thing where if we don't know this news and Nurkic is questionable, and if he does sit and you're building MME or whatever, this is another spot that I would want almost all the cancer I can get at that price. And if we don't know the news, this may be where you take a chance and go heavy on him, and hopefully Nurkic sits and everyone else is put in a different center and they can't, especially on FanDuel, and they can't pivot, and then you're just getting a smash 40 burger out of Canner. So really love that. It's something you really have to pay attention to. Same thing as Rashawn Holmes. Canner doesn't play defense. So if Canner was in, it's going to help Holmes even more. And with him being probable at 6,400, maybe take a chance there. Maybe this is where I want my center. Maybe I want a ton of Canner and Holmes on this, and because I think they have the highest upside. They could go back and forth. 50 burger against Indy. He's got massive upside. I think, thinking about this game, I want a ton of these centers, at those prices. McCollum, 9,200. Man, we haven't seen that in a long time with Lillard playing. So with both of these guys up here, McCollum's actually been the more consistent guy here. 9,200 FanDuel, 8,600 on DraftKings. So you get a little bit of a discount on DraftKings. 47, 50, 31, 42, 51. Definitely a guy you want to look at. Put up a 50 burger again, 29 minutes against Sacramento. I think he's a guy you can definitely look at his prices, but he's towards the ceiling. It's not somebody that I think there's more meat left on the bone. But if you're looking for a spend up, you can look at him. Again, Dame Lillard being probable, 9,200. He just hasn't been inconsistent, but he has a higher ceiling into the 60s. 33, 33, 65 against Minnesota in 28 minutes. He does a little bit of everything. Both squarely in play. I think you're going to want 2 or 3 guys from this game in your lineup with the over-under, how close the spread is. Again, Darren Fox is 7,400 on DraftKings, 7,300 on FanDuel. I think another guy you can absolutely look at. He's got a 30% usage rate. Got upside again against Portland, only played 25 minutes. I want to say, is that the game? Or no, Chicago that he got hurt. I remember that because it was like I had in my lineups, and I was like, oh, my God. Only put up 12 there, but he has upside in the 40s. So a guy you have to consider here at 7,300. Barnes, 6,800. Man, it's a big price tag for him. 6,700 on DraftKings. But, if you look at his play, 44, 23, 37, there's some spots where he has some upside. I don't like that price tag, though. I think there's better plays. And again, with Buddy Hield coming back, it's going to screw up, Halliburton. So it's he's 5,400 on FanDuel, which is, playable. DraftKings 6,300. I can't pay that. If Hield was out, I think you could talk me into it more. Bagley 5,500. Again, with Holmes coming back, it's really hard to get too excited about playing him because the minutes aren't there. Luke Walton's an idiot. I can't wait till that guy's out of the league, not coaching. Just an absolute dumpster fire, but is what it is. Gary Trent Jr., 3,600 on DraftKings. We look over here on FanDuel. Where is Gary Trent, man? 3,500 on FanDuel. I mean, he's a punt play, but again, if we get AD being out for some reason, I'd much rather play Kuzma here. But 3,500, 14, 12, his last 2 games. The minutes are there, but he's never going to be a usage guy with all these other guys playing. So for me, I think in this game, again, we got Covington at 5,800. I think you can definitely look at him. But my 2 favorite plays on this game are the centers. I think I'm going to take a chance on Canner at 5,300 and Rashawn Holmes. Rashawn Holmes, 6,400 on FanDuel and DraftKings, respectively. Like I said, Covington at 5K on DraftKings, 4,800 on FanDuel. He's definitely in play at that price. He's been getting 26 to put 24 against Sacramento in 27 minutes. So at that price, he might be a cash consideration. But there's a lot of plays in this game that I think that could be in the winning lineup. And we're looking at center and nobody that I think can crush. I'm going to go ahead and make Cantor my favorite play on this entire slate if Nurkic sits. And we might be able to leverage the field if we think he does sit. So hopefully we don't get that news. I'm going to take some chances and take down some tournaments. But with that, hey, first look. Again, if you're not a part of DFS Army, head on over there. Use promo code CashKeg. Save yourself 10%. We'll be in there all day talking shop, building lineups, answering questions that you might have. Jump into beginners channel we even have. If you're new to DFS and you really don't know where to begin with bankroll management or just to kind of get your feet wet and you feel like, you're overwhelmed with everything going on, go in there and we will definitely coach you up, help you out, get you on the right track to enjoy the DFS experience. So with that, I appreciate you. I'm Craig Bennett, a.k.a. Cash Keg with DFS Army, and we're out you. Deuce.